America is an idea, a place, an aspiration, a hope for all that is good. It was built on the backs of everyday people, buttressed by a document called the Declaration of Independence. Here in Chester County, home of Valley Forge and revolutionary battlefields, we asked those everyday people to reflect on our country as we approach her 250th birthday. How do those words, so carefully crafted so many years ago, resonate with the people of today?
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal,
that they are endowed by Creator with certain unalienable rights,
that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
They are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
That they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
After reading these very familiar words out loud, we asked each person to reflect on the meaning of the Declaration in their own lives.
It's a beautiful document, but it didn't include me.
These are self-evident, they're not self-executing. And as a community, we have to continuously work. We have to evaluate, we have to think about what we're doing to ensure that these rights are available and everyone has access to them.
All men are created equal, because that implies that all men, all humans should be treated equally. And I think the problem is that sometimes in the US, not all people are treated equally. Like there are tons of hate crimes every single year. And I think one of the reasons for that is that the US is slowly becoming a very individualistic country. And while that has its pros and cons, one problem with that is that sometimes being so individualistic causes people to turn a blind eye to the situations of others, and they can't understand what others are going through, and therefore they have biases.
Everyone deserves equal opportunities to be a citizen of this world and contribute to improve our society.
I think I like the line that all men are created equally. I think that is a very important thing that our society and our culture seems to forget. This is so profound that I think it's sad to say it's not a reality in our culture, in our society. The idea that all men are created equally is not true. I think right now in our society that's a myth, which is really sad to say, but that line was the first thing that I saw when I pick up this paper, because it's it's not my reality.
When God created us, it was, again, for all men to have equality and share in the same rights and liberty, pursuit of happiness. But when man got involved, he decided, and it was because of his greed and the desire to have power, decided to change all that. And we ended up with inequality and division. And God is not pleased.
So all men are created equal. And I think that in my life, growing up here in Westchester, that I found out that in the early years of my life, there wasn't as, shall I say, that people didn't treat everyone as if they were equal. This is back in the 1940s, early 50s. And things have changed. Westchester has come a long way in the last 90 years. We had segregated grade schools. We had restaurants that wouldn't seat people. We had certain areas where people couldn't live. And it was very disturbing to me, even as a high school student, to find the class distinctions and racial distinctions. And I felt that I had an obligation as a Westchester resident to be able to contribute a little bit to change that.
I think that the year 1776, for Thomas Jefferson to pen a universal truth like that, especially in a world where the realities were not all men were treated as they were created equal, and Thomas Jefferson was a benefactor of that hard truth. It's amazing. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And, you know, the story goes is that real parents don't want their kids to be doctors, lawyers, engineers. They just want them to be happy. So I think for our founding fathers to say that we have the rights, unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that was something that, like we said, lives on through the ages.
The promise of America has not been fulfilled for many of the people we interviewed, but for others, America remains a land of opportunity.
We're the country of freedom. So people just want to be free to express themselves, right? You know, so throughout our country's history, you're seeing people gaining more and more freedoms. So whether that be people from different ethnicities, people with different sexualities, different beliefs, people just want to be free. And so what we're dealing with is like the consequences of telling people you can't have those freedoms, and those people fighting for those freedoms. And they're, you know, I guess that's sort of like the theme of this country. Like you can be free to be whoever you want.
Well, I think when you travel overseas, you realize what a gift America is. You know, that this is even written. Some of this isn't even written in some countries, that we have these rights. We have life, we have liberty, we can pursue happiness. You know, we were just talking yesterday about a group of kids who are in Guatemala, and like their houses don't even have sides. They just have little roofs, and, you know, they have to go all the way to the village to get water. There is no power, electricity. Their bathroom is out in the trees. So, I mean, I think we forget how gifted America is.
I don't know that we have a long way to go. I think there are a lot of unhappy people in this country who think that we have a long way to go. But I think that there is equal opportunity for everybody. And I mean, look, I come from a lower middle class family. My dad was a butcher. My mom was a housewife. When I was growing up, I wouldn't see my father until Sundays. I mean, he would leave the house at 5:30 in the morning, and he wouldn't come home until 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And he worked 6 days a week. And when he came home on Sunday, when he was home Sunday, he would nap all day because he was tired. I mean, he worked hard. And yet he was able to raise 4 sons. Each of us turned out to be very successful. And I don't think this has anything to do with my I don't want to say ethnic background, with the fact that I'm a white guy. I think that there are opportunities out there for everybody.
When we call America a melting pot, I think we diminish it. To me, America is a beautiful rainbow, a wonderful mosaic of different people, different religions, different beliefs, different dreams, and different hopes. All of them coming to this great country in pursuit of better life and endeavor to achieve more freedom, more dignity, and more happiness. But America too draws strength and energy from these immigrants.
Our participants' experiences were vastly different, but we asked each person to tell their own story, their own truth, so that we could get a feeling for the multiracial, multi-ethnic fabric of Chester County. Maria Galarza was born in Puerto Rico, but she lives and works in Phoenixville. Here she tells a story of being confronted in a Wawa because of her ethnic identity.
We cannot stay silent I say that to Teresa all the time. You cannot stay silent. We have a voice. We need to use that voice, and we need to stand up to things that are unjust. During the past, I guess it was 2 years ago, things were ramping up a lot. And I was in getting my coffee at one of the local places, and somebody came right to my face, right next to me. And I didn't have gray hair then, I had been dying. And said, "They're building a wall." And then and I dropped my coffee, and it was just so unnerving, and ran away. And my first thing is, I need to find that person. I need to find out who that was. But it really was terrible. And everybody was like, "Oh no, people." I said, "I know," but I know that face. And so whenever I walk in there and I see that person, I always say, "Hi, how are you? How are you doing?" And normally there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people there, and I will speak to them in Spanish because I know them. And so I make sure that he hears both languages.
Chuck Coppage grew up in Phoenixville in the 60s and 70s, and he still remembers the pain he felt when his family moved to a predominantly white section of town.
I grew up with my father being the first black cop, and we had to go to court in 1964 to buy a house in a white section of Phoenixville. And when we moved into the home, I thought, this is great, we're going to be fine. I ended up having to fight almost every day on a daily basis because the white kids didn't want us there, and the black kids said, "You think you're white because you're living with the white people." And for years, I was the oldest boy. I had to fight and defend my family.
Khadija Alamain is a resident of Coatesville and the first Muslim to be elected in Chester County. Her story is both of joy and of pain.
I have experienced both good and bad. I'm originally born and raised from Westchester, Pennsylvania. I have been in Coatesville for 40 years. So within the community, I'm well known and well respected. And, I've done volunteer work for all of my life. So a lot of people know me. So here, I don't have issues. After 9/11, in my employment, twice I was physically attacked.
Oh, no.
And called names and go back to your own country. And I'm born and raised Pennsylvania. So I think anybody that you talk to probably has positive and negative. But this community here, very diverse.
One constant in American literature, political speeches, and ideology has been the idea of an American dream to which every American can aspire. We asked if there still is an American dream, and what that dream is for our participants.
For all of us to be able to be judged on our own abilities, and like you said, the content of our character, and nothing else. And they're and again, where everybody competes on a equal footing, and your abilities take you wherever you need to go.
So success needs to be measured in different ways. There's the success is something that cannot be measured. I can be successful as a father, and another person can be successful as a money-making machine. We need to kind of try to change the value system that we are trying to teach our children, because if we're going to be measuring success as something where it gives me the power to go to Mars and own the entire Mars, or to own the sun, or to own the waters, then that to me that's not success at all. The notion that we have a big house, it's an illusion also, because what's the difference between a big house and a small house? You pay more money, but are we valuing the money more than the actual way that we treat one another.
Almost an embodiment of the American dream. You know, I was born here in the United States, the first person in my family, in a rural part of Florida. And my mom and dad had, you know, kind of were outsiders, had come to, you know, to our country, to our community, and not really known many people. But at the same time, I think of like all the dreams that like my mom especially had. And it really started with her father, my grandfather, who kind of had this dream that my mom would have an education. She was the first woman in her village to be educated, and she would be able to use that education and help people around the world. And so my mom fulfilled that dream and became a nurse and had a master's in science and nursing. And her first job out of her graduate school was at Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia. And so my mom was able to come to the United States, love the experience. And it was always a dream of my grandfather's to come and visit the United States. Unfortunately, he passed away before he ever realized that dream. But my grandfather, like so many families abroad, he worked with his brothers and sisters, and they all saved the money for my mom to go to college and then for my mom to travel to the United States for that first time.
Each one of us has the power to be the best version of ourselves. So I think that personal responsibility first is with the individual. Mm-hmm. The system can always be a facilitator or it can be an obstruction, right? Mm-hmm. That's the job of the system. Mm-hmm. But then how committed are you, how serious are you, and how prepared are you to navigate those challenges? So having said that the first and primary responsibility lies with the individual, having acknowledged that, I think for the most part, I mean, this is the land of possibility.
And I think the dream is freedom. I think that's what it is, and the freedom to be able to do what you want. However, the American dream today, as I'm seeing it, is not what it was before. We need to get back to some of the things that this Declaration of Independence has said. And in the section after we talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the onus is on us. It's not on the government. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, it says that it's our responsibility that if these rights are being taken away, if these rights are being surrendered, if there is tyranny and that the government isn't working right, it's our right as people to start a new government. That's exactly what it says in this.
Another sacrifice that I saw was my mother. I'm going to try to get through this without tearing up. My mother was born in Alabama. And during a time, she's going to be 90 this summer in July. But during a time when race relations in our country were very difficult. She had a big family, and her parents needed her to help care for her brothers and sisters, so she was pulled from school. My mother worked cotton fields, and she helped raise her brothers and sisters, like I mentioned. Education wasn't something that she was able to pursue, but she was very insistent and made that a priority for my siblings, that we pursue education and get the best that we could. And what I watched my mother do, the sacrificial way that she loved, she too inspired me beyond my words to do what is very difficult, I think. One of the dreams that I know people talk about, the American dream, prosperity, the pursuit of happiness and liberty. Freedom means a lot to me, and it has come on the backs of people that have lost their lives.
What can we do to bring people together?
I think we are more united than we are divided. What needs to happen is more communication, more open communication, more heart-to-heart communication. When people come here, recently we hosted a program called Coffee with the Chief. We had a lot of people, pastors and other members of the community come in here, and then they were all very respectful. They would ask, what kind of dress should we wear so that we don't violate anything of the mosque? So same thing, we participated as a community in the Martin Luther King March on the was it the 14th or 11th of January? And we participated in that march, and we were in the church, and I played the role of Malcolm X. So we were kind of reenacting the Bloody Sunday that happened in 1965. I think it is definitely possible. All we need to do is have a lot of patience with one another and respect the fact that the other person has his point of view, But then communication is the only way you can exchange where the differences lie.
I do love America because of like I said, the opportunities, the cultural differences and stuff. But also the one thing that I did see when I was in Korea was the unity. Like, they were so much more united. When they needed to wear masks or something, everybody wore masks. When they were told there was a curfew, everybody was in their house. Like, there's not as much of a divide, and there's not like as much of a political divide. People aren't at each other's throats all the time. So I would say right now the division in the United States is it's bad. That's the worst part. I think the United States is still an amazing country, but it's just like so divided. It's so divided, where politically, ethnically, religiously, racially, it's like at its peak right now.
Spread love, and respect everyone, because you don't really know what they're going through. Everyone has had bad experiences, so just always spread love and be a happy person.
As I always talk to them, the things we have on the Capitol Hill is e pluribus unum. So out of many one, we should always come together and do not exaggerate the divisiveness and the differences between us. There's only one race, it's called human race.
It's a complicated topic. There are people criticize this country. There are people is proud of this country. Well, every country have its problems, but this country is unique. Not because we are number one in military power, not because we are number one in GDP, but we are a combination of multiple features, characteristics that make this country great. One, we are a combination, we're a country with tolerance. In this country, we have all a different kind of ethnic group, where people believe different faiths, right? We have people come from different culture. We are able to stay together as a country, and we're able to pursue what we believe is correct. As the Declaration of Independence says, there are certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. We believe in that. Although we have different background, we believe this same thing, and we believe this applies to the entire nation, entire country. So we try to apply this rule to other countries when we see they're in trouble. Well, we don't always do it correctly, but we try.
When I think about what our ancestors went through, being beat, raped, lynched, and so forth, and what they did in order for us to have a voice. I don't want to see that go away.
And finally, Reverend Chuck Coppage and his wife, Marcia Coppage, leave us with a story about what a nurse had to say to him when he was in the hospital recently, having his blood taken.
She's watching my blood flow through my arteries. And she was white. And my wife and I are sitting there, and she said, you know, how different we all are on the outside, but inside, we all bleed the same blood. We're all made the same. Stop looking on the outside and look on the inside. And
that's a blessing.
Yes.
Right. And you'll find the truth there, because, you know, and you'll do yourself a favor by finding the truth and admitting that we're all here together.
I dug my hole a little deep. I had more energy this morning than I thought I did. Today what I have gotten is some seeds from the Lenape. So I have heritage corn seeds that are there. And I have heritage bean seeds that are there. Corn, and clan mother Shelley DePaul told me to buy my own squash seeds because it didn't matter on that one. So I'll explain the corn and the beans and the squash here in a second. The Three Sisters starts with the corn. The Lenape call her their eldest sister. She grows tall and she provides a wide base. I don't know whether my hole here in the ground is wide enough, but often corn will go out 3 or 4 feet with it's not one that goes down deep with its roots go sideways. And so because you've got a corn stalk that is so tall, it needs a wide base to give it strength to stand up straight and tall. Corn takes a little longer to grow than beans and squash. And so I pre-planted my corn a week ago. I was really hoping that I would have something showing up here, but I don't see it yet. The corn seed's down in there. And so we're going to hope that it will come up very soon. I'm going to set it down here in the middle. There's probably about 3 stalks of corn in there at this point. Oh, there's one of the seeds I can see now. And it looks like it's broken its shell and is starting to sprout. I think planting the garden gives us a way to visually remember. We can tell stories, and telling stories is a wonderful thing. But some of us hear and some of us see. And people don't always learn in the same ways. And so by doing this a couple of different ways, we have an opportunity for people to come and say, why in the world is there a corn and beans and squash growing in what we thought was a flower garden? And so it's an opportunity for education, for more people to learn that there were people here before the European colonists, before the Declaration of Independence, that was an important part of who we are today, and let us recognize and go back to that and maybe begin to undo some of the wrongs that we did to the Lenape and other indigenous tribes early on.